Well, thanks everyone for joining us today for the kickoff, an information kickoff for you related to the BioAR trial program. We're really excited about this. It's a collaborative effort between Health Tech Arkansas and Symbiosis. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about the program over the next little bit. We have a few slides to go through. And then we're going to do some Q&A at the end. And I think we have you have the ability to drop in your questions by chat at any point during this information session. So feel free to do it at any time or at the end, and we'll be happy to address your questions. So we'll just start off by talking about, so what is the program itself? So BioAR Trial is a program that is essentially set up to help early stage biotherapeutics companies conduct expedited clinical trials in the state of Arkansas. So we have a belief that we can execute a program, an accelerator program that is geared towards bringing the most advanced biotherapeutics to the state and connecting those early stage companies with our trial sites in the state of Arkansas. And we'll tell you about those sites in just a minute. And that is the concept of what we're trying to do here. Again, this is a collaborative effort between Symbiosis Capital Management and Health Tech Arkansas, which I think is a good intro to us as a team. And so we're going to introduce ourselves and tell you just a little bit about our companies. And Jahan, I'd love for you to start those intros if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, and welcome everyone. It's really wonderful to see the biotech companies that have joined today. My name is Jahan Ali. I am a Vice President of Business Development at Symbiosis Capital. By way of background, I'm a scientist by training and have run a number of accelerator programs, and it's a real pleasure to be working with Health Tech Arkansas on this particular program because they have very deep relationships with the healthcare systems in Arkansas. I don't know if Nick is Nick on? Jeff?
Nick is here. Yes.
Okay, so Nick is also going to give you, as part of his intro, a little bit more on what Symbiosis is. Thank you.
Yes, so Nick Smith, by way of background, and Arkansas native, but actually started off my career playing pro basketball. After a couple of years in Europe, realized I was getting dunked on a little bit more than I was dunked on other folks. So came back, got my MBA at the University of Arkansas, where I joined the team at Symbiosis upon graduation. So I've been working in biotech for about 3 years. Now, Symbiosis is a venture capital firm based in Northwest Arkansas that was spun out of a large U.S. family office, really behind the thesis that biology is in the early stages of becoming engineerable. And so we spend our investment focus really on the private side, really from kind of seed all the way up through Series D crossover space, really looking to support companies who are developing therapies in areas of significant unmet need. And so the partnership with Health Tech Arkansas and trying to activate clinical trial sites here really was just a natural next step for us. And we really look forward to launch this program and partnering with some of you guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Stephanie, I would love for you to introduce yourself, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Again, just to reiterate what Jahan said, we welcome you and glad to meet each of you and are glad that you're here to learn more about the program. But I'm Stephanie Benton. I'm the clinical director at Health Tech Arkansas. I lead the accelerator arm of our company, running medical affairs, clinical trial coordination, and the clinical engagement for the companies that come through our cohorts. I have a doctorate in nursing practice, and so I'm a nurse practitioner by background. I've been in this world for about 3 years, but I've been in healthcare, facilitating engagements and cultivating relationships and medical affairs components for the last 15 years. And Jeff,
Excellent.
I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself and to provide more information and background on Health Tech Arkansas.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. So yeah, I'm Jeff Stinson. I lead Health Tech Arkansas. We're really an organization that's set up to drive innovation for the state's 10 largest hospitals and health systems. And for the past 5 years, we have conducted an accelerator program in the med tech, health tech space, which you can learn about at heartx accelerator.com. And so we are building off of the experiences we've had conducting that accelerator to bring to you this new biotherapeutics accelerator. But HeartX has been very successful. We essentially go around the world, recruit early stage medical device and software companies and vet them and screen them, present them to our cardiology practices here in the state. And those practices choose 5 companies a year to get into the program. And then we go about facilitating pilot projects and clinical trials with those companies. So the entire program is set up around clinical engagement, which is a point of differentiation for us nationally. We think we're the only program in the accelerator program in the country that guarantees hospital pilot projects and clinical trials for startups. And so we've built off of that to be able to bring you BioAR trial. And we're super excited about that, in part because of the resources that Symbiosis brings. They are a very, very knowledgeable biotherapeutics investment firm with a really impressive methodology for finding early stage companies, vetting and screening those and investing in those. And they're investing at a very rapid pace. And so the expertise that they bring to us is obviously critical to our ability to succeed in this program. So, a few problems that we're trying to solve here with our clinical trials accelerator program. And most of the early stage companies are very aware of these challenges. Obviously, slower patient enrollment, lack of diversity among trial participants, which we hope to address, compliance with complex rules and regulations, and maintaining strong patient enrollment and retention. So even once you get past all of the legal documentation to get your trial underway, maintaining patient enrollment and retention is a big challenge. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about how we are going about trying to tackle all of these problems and trying to essentially deliver a better clinical trials experience for early stage companies. So what is our mission? So we want to provide access to a large and diverse patient populations. Nick was able to dig out some of these statistics for us. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, Arkansas, we think, is a place that really lends itself to providing a diverse patient population in clinical areas that can make a big difference for us. We are obviously focused on oncology, immunology, and cardiometabolic diseases. And we think that patient population fits well with us as a state, but also from our clinical trial sites, that is where most of our expertise and experience lies with our PIs in the state as well. So that's the reason we're focused on those. We also are providing dedicated clinical trial site personnel that will help early stage companies essentially go all the way through the process, from CTA execution to executing the clinical trial itself and generating clean data on the back end. And so Health Tech Arkansas will lend the services of its clinical trials manager to this process. And we think that is a way for us to take the expertise and the knowledge that we have about our sites, our clinical trial sites, so that each year, when 5 new companies come through our program, we can take that knowledge of our clinical trial sites and help you to execute a better clinical trial, right? So if we can take some of the workload off of either the sponsor or the site through our clinical trials manager, we think that is a good thing overall. And then finally, here's the listing of our sites, right? So we have 7 committed sites that have all engaged with us and under legal contract with us to execute this program, and we're really excited about that. UAMS happens to be our academic medical center, and they will be participating with us through the Winthrop Rockefeller Cancer Institute, which is undergoing NCI designation right now, and a very active clinical trial site but all of these are. And so we're really looking forward to bringing this network of clinical trial sites to you. So what are the types of companies that we're seeking? So you're a biotech company, 6 to 12 months away from your clinical trial. You've secured funding to do the trial. If you are looking to do phase 1, you're already in IND enabling studies. And those are the clinical areas that we've already discussed. So that's typically the parameters of the types of companies that we're looking for. And so if you fit in those areas, that's great. We'd love to see your application. If you're outside of those areas, we still would like for you to reach out to us, and we'll try to figure out together whether there's a spot here, whether we have the patients, whether we have the PIs, et cetera, to help you do a study. And then the last thing I wanted to mention before we sort of get into the Q&A part of this is, if you think about the value proposition that we're trying to drive for you, we talked about this, the large and diverse patient populations, the expertise of our PIs, our clinical trials manager that will be available to you, et cetera. The other thing that we are working on that we have not yet announced is we are working on a number of potential program partners, and those conversations are underway right now, but they include, for example, a clinical trials platform management company that will be offering the services of its platform to cohort companies. We're also talking to data providers that can help you better define the size of the problem you're trying to solve and help you identify patients, where they are, what they look like, and even help to drive patients into your trials. And we also are talking to both regulatory providers and also biotherapeutics manufacturing companies as well. So over the next 6 weeks or so, as we announce those partnerships and roll those out, I think that hopefully you'll be impressed with the sort of the overall value proposition that we're trying to drive for our early stage companies. So with that, last slide for you, which is the selection process. So applications are open now, and they will be open through January 15th of next year. When our applications close on January 15th, we will essentially take a 2-month period from January 15th to March 15th to interview 5 finalist companies. And the way that process will work is that our clinical trial sites have designated they have put together the selection committee, right? So the selection committee is actually comprised of our clinical trial sites. So they will be the ones who will be interviewing the finalist companies and evaluating those companies and gauging their interest and ability in conducting those clinical trials. So they will be the ones who will be choosing the 5 cohort companies on March 15th to participate in the program. We have found with HeartX, our MedTech Accelerator program, that when we let our trial sites choose the companies, it's obviously much better than us choosing the companies because now they have a vested interest. They have see the clear and compelling need and fit within their organization. So that's sort of the way that will work is on March 15th, after 2 months of interviews, those sites will choose 5 companies to participate in the program. And then we will go about the work of facilitating those clinical trials on your behalf with a formal program kickoff on April 15th. So there's the link for you to apply. It's bioarkansas.co/trial. And then Stephanie, who introduced herself to you earlier as our clinical director, she will be the primary point person for any questions you have outside of this information session. So with all of that being said, I think we can now open it up for questions, unless Jahan or Nick or Stephanie, anything you want to add before we start fielding questions from folks. Jahan, you're muted.
I don't think I have anything to add at the moment. I do see that we have a question in the chat about what will make our application stand out and be most competitive.
Yes, what will make my application stand out and make it the most competitive? So Nick, I think I may want you to jump in here, because I think to a large degree, what makes an application compelling to this program, to this accelerator program, to some degree, there's some overlap on what makes a company compelling to Symbiosis as a potential investment target, right? So I'd love to, if you don't mind, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but to share your thoughts on some of the things that you think makes a compelling application.
Absolutely. And I guess so, yes. And I think there's really two key aspects to that. I guess one of those being, to the extent that the therapeutic, the trial design lines up with kind of the expertise of the sites, and to the extent that they will kind of be able to help you succeed, because we really want it to be very mutually beneficial. But then the other point, I guess, from a therapeutic perspective, really looking at companies, I guess, that have done more robust work around in their preclinical, so in your IND enabling, there's varying level degrees of rigor that you can do to accomplish your IND. I know to the extent that you have well characterized your biology, that you understand it, and that you're clearly able to communicate, what the unmet need you're addressing is. I think that really will be what makes companies stand out here.
Excellent. So I'm not sure if that answers. Yes, Jahan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just like to add that, one of the, of course, it's your slide deck answering all the questions that are requested. The application is not really cumbersome, and reaching out to us if you have any questions to help make that application robust. And one of the things really that is important is that you have to be at the right stage. It can't be that you have, just begun your IND enabling studies. It has to make sense for the program.
Right. And I think to that, tagging along to that, the right stage for us means probably going into phase 1 trials sometime within the next 12 months. Because if it's going to be longer than 12 months before you are ready to execute a phase 1 trial, then it's just better off to apply the next year, right? So we want to admit 5 companies a year to the program who are ready to launch their trials within the next 12 months. And we're also open to phase 2 and 3 as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be phase 1 trials, but we need to be ready to go on those within the next 12 months, or else it's just better to apply the next year. Joshua Phillips asks, is the clinical trial support limited to clinical trials within Arkansas? Yes, for this particular program it is, because the 7 sites with whom we have partnered are all based here, and that is part of our mission, is to bring these advanced therapeutics to the state so fewer Arkansans have to get on planes and go to Houston and Chicago and Dallas and other places to participate in these advanced trials. So this particular program, it is geared towards helping to facilitate trials within the state.
Okay, we have some more questions. We have several more questions. So one is, what are the terms for the company selected to participate in the program?
Right. So the terms are generally outlined on the BioAR trial website. But essentially those terms are, again, you need to be ready within the next 12 months to execute your trial. And there is a small in-kind investment position taken by Symbiosis and Health Tech Arkansas in exchange for the value of going through that program. And that's on pure fair market terms, and whatever the current valuation of your company is. It's a very small position, but that is intended to compensate our organizations for the work that we will be doing on your behalf. Am I missing any terms other than that?
No, there's no other questions. Are you only looking at biotech, or would you consider device companies like a product for PTSD or one for wound care?
Yeah, Jahan and Nick, I think you guys should probably take that one.
So I think we're focused on therapeutics, but I would love to have a offline conversation. I actually put my email contact in the chat. So I would like to know what the product is, etc.
Excellent.
Okay, and then the next one, okay, okay.
I think maybe just to touch on, because I know that there were a number of questions around. I guess just to be clear, you do not have to be an Arkansas-based company to do this. You don't need to relocate or be a resident. You know, in a lot of ways, we're looking to bring, you know, a lot of innovative ideas and therapeutics to the state that are not currently here. And so this is absolutely something that can be managed out of state. And I think that that's part of the value add that we're bringing to the table, is we tend to be very hands-on to really help that be a smooth process, you know, so that you can have seamless execution of your trial, even if you're not an Arkansas-based company.
Yeah. So Humphrey asked, what does dedicated assistance mean? What function of CRO activity does it substitute or supplement? And that's a really good question. So our clinical trials manager has expertise beginning to end with executing pharma-based clinical trials. So our goal with our clinical trials manager is to essentially supplement the work that either the sponsor or the site is conducting. We believe that our applicants to the program this year, some of those companies will have a CRO and some may not. And we're okay with that either way. And if you're if you're not working with a CRO and don't intend to work with one, that we again intend for our clinical trials manager to essentially replicate as many of those functions as possible to help take you beginning to end and interface directly with the site and manage all aspects of that process.
And if I may, just to tag along in particular, some of those conversations that Jeff mentioned that are really early stages are with partners around some of the data generation, some of the analysis and patient targeting that would be in line with what you might see from the CRO. So those conversations are early, but you know, we also hope to really augment that offering in particular as we get closer to launching the program.
Yeah, very good. Michael asked, does the applicant need to be a resident in Arkansas? Absolutely not. You can be based anywhere in the world. And in fact, that's one of the things that we have found with our HeartX program, where 3 of our 5 companies in this year's cohort were actually from outside the US, is that we see a trend of international companies accessing programs like this one to be able to leverage the program to access the US market. And particularly in this case, where there's an increasing trend for regulatory authorities to require trials in the country in question. So the FDA requiring or wanting clinical trials to be conducted here with US patients, we see that we will probably have strong demand from those international companies because they can come here, do trials through this program, get the data that they need to pursuant to their FDA application. So no, you don't need to be based in the state of Arkansas at all. And you will, unlike some accelerator programs where there's a residential component or you need to spend a certain amount of time here, we don't have that at all. This is essentially, we're helping you to facilitate clinical trials, and you will be in Arkansas no more than you need to be to conduct that clinical trial, just as if you were doing a trial with any other clinical site anywhere in the US, right? So I hope that is helpful. Amber Floyd, go ahead, John.
No, that was me. I was just going to say, I think if you could speak more to the selection process, that might help answer Amber Floyd's question.
Yes,
which is about opening the sites and the hospitals, and how that's selected.
Yeah. It is a good question. So it is true that we have 7 sites, and those sites are choosing only 5 companies a year. So how does that match up? So effectively, what that means is those 7 sites will, again, they will interview 10 finalist companies each year that come into that are presented to them. And that selection committee will go through and they will identify the companies that they feel like are the best fit for them and their clinical trials capabilities and their patient population and the expertise of their PIs, et cetera. And they will choose 5 companies. So it could be that not all 7 of our sites participate in a clinical trial in a given year, but it also could be that some of our sites both want to collaborate, and there could be a multi-site study for a given applicant as well. So really the decisions are driven around the sites and what they want to do and the clinical trials they want to conduct. Hopefully that is helpful, Amber. I don't know if we need to follow up on that, please let us know.
Just want to encourage everyone to please reach out.
All right. So what other questions do we have?
There is another good question, Jeff. Can we get a view of pass-through costs from potential Arkansas clinical sites?
Yes. I think we can do that.
We can help get that. We don't have them at the moment for you, but we can certainly get ranges for you on that.
Great.
Well, and just to add on to that, as some of you know, some of that's dependent on the asset, the trial, and the complexity. And so it's certainly something we can talk to the sites about.
Yeah, so there's another question. Jeff, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to try to tackle Enrique's question there. Yeah. On the value prop. Thank you, Enrique, for the question and for the compliment. We too think it's an amazing program. So elaborating on the value prop. So let's go back to the slide that kind of touches on this a little bit. So the value prop of partnering with our sites here in Arkansas are these things, right? We think that we have a patient population that is diverse, and it's diverse from both an ethnicity standpoint, and it's especially diverse related to rurality. We are a rural state, and we think that matters to early stage biotherapeutics companies. So we think that our patient population is a driver of value for us. We think that the work of our clinical trials manager and the work that she will do on helping us facilitate these clinical trials and offload some of the work from you or the site is, I think that also helps to drive value. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that's not on the slide, is we've got a number of partnerships we're working on in the area of platform management, data aggregation, regulatory consulting, and manufacturing. And as we roll out those partnerships, we think all of those organizations can help to provide value for our cohort companies as well. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, did we miss any questions along the way?
I think we didn't miss any question, but there is a question from previously that none of the people here asked that I'd like to, that a company asked me, and maybe some people are candidates. If a company has 2 programs that are eligible, do they have to do 2 applications?
And so my initial thought on that, and Stephanie, I'd like your input on it, is I would say, no, we don't require 2 different applications. I think the company makes the application, and you can describe your assets and the type of trials that you want to do. And that and that application can be advanced as a finalist to our sites, and those sites can decide which of those two trials appeal to them the most.
And just to add on to that, it's not unusual to actually have that happen in the history doing accelerators, to have two options there, either with different assets, different types of trials, and actually could be a value add or a strength to your application and providing some options. The possibility that a site accepts both programs, it exists. While we can't guarantee that, it also increases your exposure and the options for those sites to choose from. So again, just to reemphasize and reiterate what Jeff says, one application per company, just make it really explicit that you have two programs, two options, two pathways that you'd like to include in that application.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Stephanie. I just want to address one other thing. We have stated that oncology, immune disorders, and cardiometabolic diseases are areas of interest. And the reason we have outlined those is because we know we have the patient population, and that it is in partnership with the health system that we came up with those areas. But it doesn't mean that there may be an area outside of that where there is a patient population that can be enrolled in your trials. So if you have something like that, please reach out to us. We're already doing some search on an indication for a company that is outside of this. So we would be happy to do that. Just reach out.
Perhaps one more, just to tag along, it wasn't necessarily an explicit part of that question, but from a modality perspective, I would also say that we're not particularly confined. You know, UAMS has experience with cell products, and so we're really able to work with companies pretty much kind of irrespective of modality.
Good point, Nick. Thank you. All right, do we have any other questions from our audience today? All right, perfect. So we just want to thank everybody for your interest. I mean, this is fantastic. We had really great attendance on the webinar today. We obviously had some really good questions sent along to us. So we're going to continue to communicate with you. We've been pretty active on social media and through email in promoting this program, and you'll continue to see communications from us as we go along, leading up to our application deadline date on January 15th. Including, you know, hopefully the announcement of some pretty exciting partners that we're bringing on board with us as well. So we just want to thank everyone for your time. Next steps for us, I think, Jahan, we plan to put a link of this info session on the BioAR trial website, as well as a link to the slide deck we used today as well. So
I think we can send the slides to the attendees just so they have it in an email. That would be. Somebody asked for that, so yeah.
Perfect. We can do that.
And if there's any questions that come up after this, or you think of something as you're going through the applications, feel free to email us at any time. We're super reactive in our responsive time on our emails, because this is what we dedicate our time and efforts to. So feel free to ask anything. We are open to that. We want to make the process and facilitate it and make it as easy and as efficient as possible.
Agree. Excellent. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We really are excited to work with you.